Welcome to the Level Up Your Band podcast, episode 65. Hello, and welcome back to the Level Up Your Band podcast. My name is Gavin Patterson. I'm here with Julian Pombo. How are you doing?
Hello. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm not bad. How are you doing?
Hi, all right. As of
What
2 days ago, we came out of level 4 lockdown and we're now on level 3 lockdown, so we can
level 3?
do a wee
Which
bit
means
more.
that stuff that is considered non-essential can more or less resume. So your studio is
Open, yeah.
open.
Openish.
I can teach people in person if they want me to.
Yeah.
So yeah, things are good. I imagine people will start rehearsing again
Yes.
pretty soon.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's technically non-essential work.
I've already had 2 bands in rehearsing, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah, it's only 2 days in and I've had 2 bands, 2 in a row. People are just so keen to get going, which is quite nice.
Nah, yeah, totally. Yeah, I can see that. I can imagine
Oh,
that.
it felt so intrusive because I was like, "How dare you come into my man cave? I have to, I have to tidy up for people. What?
Sorry, to give me 2 secs. My cat's got something in its mouth that it shouldn't have. Because
Okay.
of course it does. He's all classic.
Classic cats.
Absolute classic cats.
What did
classic
she,
Hazel.
What did she have?
That.
What is that?
It's like a little cable.
Oh, it's a tire. Yeah.
It's a tire, yeah.
Yeah, you don't want that going down the throat of a cat.
No, that would be a bad time. It was incredible. It was so fun though for like 5 seconds until I took it away. Yeah, I've been doing this really cool thing recently. So I think back episodes ago when we were talking about MIDI and stuff like that.
Aye.
I've been writing some music using the great grandfather
Oh, MIDI.
of MIDI.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a little project that I've decided to.
What's that? Pianola? Is that what it's called?
I do. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's for, where is it? It's somewhere around here. It's basically for a little. I've got a little programmable music box.
I have had a shot of a grand piano with that mechanism set up in it with scrolls of music. It's so cool. The guy I know who has one, he bought a big mansion. It's like a castle. He's rich. He's a millionaire. And he got this piano was like part of the house, and he's like, okay, cool. And there was this big like mahogany deep wood cabinet with glass doors, and he opens them up and there's like scrolls of music, and he takes it out and it's all this pianola music, and you just load it up to this old grand piano and it'll sit and play Bach, or it'll play like Scott Joplin or something. It's great.
Yeah, you could even I think there was a way to record the stuff in real time as well, so you could have
Yeah.
you know, whoever it was, Scott Joplin or Rachmaninoff or whoever was alive at the time, like playing the actual piece, and then you have that performance. It's incredible. But yeah, it's just been it's very limited what I can do with this, because it's not very big and I only have a couple of notes. But I tend to thrive creatively when I've got limitations. So it's been pretty good. And it's kind of it's a little different than just like writing stuff. You know, it forces you to
Rethink stuff
in a certain way. Yeah. Anyway, today's episode, I'm going to be talking about a band again that Gavin doesn't know. Although, to be fair, it's only been 2 bands that we've done.
You've
not been super familiar.
You've mentioned these guys before.
I've mentioned these guys so many times because they're like my favorite band.
Right.
Because I'm just a little emo sad boy, really, at heart. So, yeah, we're talking about American football today. So, if you don't know who American football are, they're basically they're an American rock band, math rock band, but they sort of created the sort of what people refer to as like the Midwestern emo sound. So it's like those sparkly, clean guitars, with loads of like really complicated like twiddly lines and stuff like that. That's kind of the sound. So, and the reason I wanted to talk about this band is that the story is so when we've covered bands before, when we've talked about it, we've kind of talked about why did they get famous? And what happened? Why are they not as relevant anymore? Why are people not listening to them? This one's kind of the opposite. In that they started off they never played a single gig, and then without them knowing it, this is the important part. Without them knowing it, they just kind of became a cult like success,
right?
Like they just became one of these bands that everybody was listening to, and then we'll get on. We'll carry on from there.
So is this a rise and fall of, or a fall and rise of?
Yeah. But it's just a rise because they've not really technically
fell.
They've not really fallen. I mean, like some people might disagree on the quality of the latest albums that they've released. I personally like them. I really like the first album. Is great, and then I think the other two are also pretty good as well. I feel like people that are just like, no, only the first one's good, are like the same people that think, the first Pokemon's like Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue were like the best Pokemon games, and they can't get any better. But really, there's a lot of problems with them. But anyway, that's beside the point. So American football, you've got 3 members initially. There's a 4th, but we'll get to that in a minute. So your 3 core members are Mike Kinsella, who is the brains of the operation, guitar, vocalist. Steve Lamos, who's the drummer, and he plays trumpet on a couple of tracks as well. And Steve Holmes, who's the lead guitarist of the band. They formed in 1997, although they knew each other from previous projects, but the project itself started in around 97 until about 2000, and then after 2000, they did nothing until 2014.
Okay.
And we'll get to all that. That's crazy. That's like, it's 14 years, nearly 15.
Yeah.
Doing nothing. Okay, so they released two big. They have 2 big releases. Their EP, which is called American Football, came out in 1998. And then the album came out after that, also called American Football. You'll see that that's a trend.
Okay.
They released it through this label called Polyvinyl Records. A really cool label. They have lots of really, really cool bands in their roster. But anyway, within a year of the release of its full-length album, American Football became within a year of release of its full length the EP American Football became a studio project, and then shortly thereafter the band mutually decided to stop recording together and never played a single gig after that. So they recorded these two the EP and the album, and then went nah.
So they just, I'm assuming, write, rehearse, record, and then they didn't gig at all.
It didn't gig at all. And the reason for that is it's unfortunate, really. I was looking through interviews and stuff, and it was just life.
Right.
They were just too busy.
Right.
Like Steve Lamos is like a college professor. He was doing his PhD at the time of recording. The rest of the band were like still in undergrad
Okay.
and starting families and stuff like that, and it was just they basically some of them continued to carry out, like Mike Kinsella continued doing other projects. He did a solo project called Owen and stuff like that. They just went and did their own things. Sometimes that can't be helped. So this was the first time it's like we've started with a band basically breaking up as the first thing that they do, more or less. After like they've rehearsed, they've recorded, and then they're like, we're done. Which is nuts.
Yeah.
Right? It's absolutely insane.
So how much their first release, did it get any, I don't know, attention at all?
It got loads of attention.
Okay.
Like so like it got released, but they weren't really aware of the attention it was getting. It just became one of these sort of like, I don't know, it was like a sleeper hit, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it. Like people were really into it. It was one of these things, but they were busy doing other stuff that they were just like, just weren't completely aware. Like I was watching an interview with the drummer, Steve Lamos, and he basically said that a kid came up to him in college and was just like, yo, check this out. And he was like, oh, cool, I'm on that. We're like, how did you find this? How are you listening to this? You know, is this big? This is what people are listening to? It's insane. But the actual album itself it's great. It's, you know, the lyrics are really personal, really straightforward. The music, the music is just so well constructed. It doesn't really sound like, I mean, now there's loads of math rock bands.
Yeah.
And they're all like one shade or another of American football, but there's not really a band that sounds like American football. Like they're the OGs, you know. So, it was just one of these things that just sort of it just worked out. So this is where we have a huge time skip. Right?
Yeah, right.
So we're now in 2014.
Suddenly.
Yeah, suddenly, right?
Internet has happened.
Polyvinyl Records have basically clocked in on like how well this album's done. Mm-hmm. So they start playing this game of like they're releasing the deluxe editions and everything, and it's crazy. It's like proper stuff. A 180-gram red double-sided LP, 2 CDs, a cassette tape, MP3 download, and then another LP, 2-sided LP later on. That was all, all versions were released May 2014. April 2nd, I'm kind of sad that they didn't do this on April 1st because this would have been really funny if they did. On April 2nd, Polyvinyl teased fans with a website, AmericanFootballMusic.com, to fans on social media, right? And the site had a countdown and to basically two live dates that were going to appear. And that kind of just started it all. Like, it started with those 2 dates and then just more dates started getting added, and now they gig all the time. They've played all over the place.
That's mental.
It's insane. Their music.
So
is
their marketing strategy
everywhere.
is to not market.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And people are like, "What's this?" And then they just become obsessed with it.
Yeah.
The less they know, the more elusive it becomes.
It's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And then so 2016 they then made their second album. Now there is some marketing involved because then they start exploring some stuff which is really, really fun. So every single album that they've released is just called American Football. That's it. That's the name, right? The only thing that differentiates it now, well, because of the internet, everything's archived. It'll be like 20. It'll be
dated.
American football 1999, American football 2016, American football 2019.
Okay.
And in some places they're called LP2, LP3, LP1. And the cover of the of the album is just a house in Illinois. It's just a house, and they've used that house as their album cover, or different perspectives on the house.
Okay.
Basically, that's what they've done. And the funny thing is that this house is just a random house. It's just some person's house. Right. It's a place that people go and visit.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's like big, like hardcore, like fans go down to Urbana, Illinois to take pictures outside the house.
Oh, that must be so annoying.
Oh, I know, right? So yeah, and then 2018, they get savvy with the whole Instagram thing. They're releasing pictures of their third album.
Yep.
Blah 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 blah. And then they released it 2019, and now, and then after that, it's the, we don't talk about what happens after 2019 because we already know it's terrible. Not them, just for the whole world in general. Yeah. Right. So I mean, that's quite a trip from like 2000, year 2000, to then the band doing nothing.
Yep.
To then the record company, the label being like, let's do a wee deluxe edition of this album that we recorded 14 years ago, and then doing stuff like that. And then this band suddenly becoming a huge, just a big success.
I was looking on Spotify, 355,334 monthly listens. Mental. I mean, their most popular song has 24 million hits or listens.
Yeah, that'll be Never Meant. That's the...
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an anthem. That's no bad for a band that's just like, oh, do you want to record some music? Yeah, okay, we'll just release it, and then let's just go and do something else. And then it accidentally kind of does extremely well.
Yeah. But the thing about the breakup was that it wasn't even like a bad breakup. They were just like, we can't do this.
Yeah.
I can't do this project. I can't do this project. And then Mike Kinsella was like, I'll do the project. And then, I forgot to mention there, Mike Kinsella's cousin plays bass for them. So, like, the original track, some of them didn't even have bass. They didn't even have a bass player. Mike Kinsella occasionally played bass on, like, one or two tracks in the original one. So,
right.
Yeah, there you go. So now it's a 4-piece.
Right, okay.
But yeah, it's insane. So, how... And the only way that I can, it's borderline a miracle, to be honest. It's just straight up, it's very lucky. I don't know how. Well, lucky, and then also Polyvinyl Records being a little clever with like, this album we released ages ago got lots of attention. It's been 14 years since it's 14, nearly 15 years since it's been released. Let's do like a 15-year deluxe edition kind of a thing, and then see how it does. Did really, really well, and then they're like, "All right, let's see if we can get the original band,
yeah,
to gig."
Yeah,
and they did. And the way they treat it is just they're like, again, this is with there's not a lot of interviews. There's a podcast. That they get interviewed on, but interview with the drummer, he's basically like Steve Lemos. He was just saying that none of them expected it, and their tours, it to them it just feels like a big lads' holiday because they're still supposed to be raising kids and working and stuff, and instead they get to go out and play.
So it sounds to me like they basically wrote and recorded an album, and obviously people were going to like it because they like it now. So they just didn't bother really pushing it. Would you say that?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, it just kind of took root by itself.
How?
You know?
Like, what was the driving force behind its growth? Was it? What was it? Was it like MTV, or did they do videos? Nothing like that.
No videos, nothing.
Like, I'm just trying to think.
The latest, I know, right? It's crazy. This is the reason I wanted to bring it up. It's just because it's nothing like it's such an anomaly.
Because between 97 and 2000, which is like their active period, that is like the height of CD sales, right? That's the most amount of money made by the music industry ever was in that time. Yeah. And it was all CD, a little bit of vinyl, a little bit cassette. There was nobody was downloading stuff on the internet really until in a big way until like 2004 or 5, 3, 4, 5. So I don't know. It's just like how does it go viral before viral is a thing? Like that's what
I think it's just like the only way I can describe it is there isn't at the time of release there wasn't a band I think that sounded anything like them at the time, and I think it just kind of in the same way that going back to the episode we were talking about Dream Theater with their hit, it's like a really complex song about what is it, Hamlet?
Yes.
Yeah. It's not the kind of thing that you expect to be a hit.
No.
And it's the same thing again with these guys. It's just that it's very twinkly, sad,
prog music,
rhythmically complex music, and it's like, it's just so it doesn't sound like the thing that would.
What you mean to say is they wrote music that they liked and wanted to write, and they did well.
Yes, actually,
they didn't.
Yes.
They didn't write according to a guidebook on how to write for an audience.
They just wrote stuff.
Yeah.
They just wrote the music that they wanted to write. Unfortunately, they couldn't play any shows because they just didn't have the time. Other things got in the way.
Mm-hmm.
But then life has a funny way of like, whatever goes around comes around kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's usually used in like a negative sense, but sometimes, but they put this thing out there that, they cared for it, they couldn't do anything with it at the time.
Yeah.
And then 14 years later, after like years and years and years, because CD sales, and then I think it became quite big on the old interwebs.
What I don't get is like
speculating
how lots of people were listening to it and presumably buying CDs. Maybe like in the mid 2000s they were maybe downloading for free and stuff.
Yeah.
And the band members themselves don't know how good their album is doing. That's just so bizarre to me. Maybe it's because I'm in a world where every single piece of data that you can get your hands on is readily available on the internet.
I mean, it's a different time now. Like
there's no way of knowing how many you were selling really if you didn't have a PR, not PR.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, and the thing is that apart from I think it does just go back to that idea that we always talk about, is the writing the music that you want to write. Mm-hmm. And people will actually it basic. It ties on perfectly to the last episode.
Amazing letter, that amazing email. If you didn't hear it, please listen to episode 64 because it's an absolute gem.
Yeah. They just recorded what they wanted to record, and it captivated people's imagination. And it just took off.
Mm-hmm.
And now they get to do what they always wanted to do.
Yeah.
Just get to play live, and it's incredible. Like there's a there's a live there's a performance of them, live performance. I think it's is it Glastonbury, something like that. And everybody is just singing along,
right,
to their big the Never Meant, and it's must be such a powerful, surreal moment for them. Do you know what I mean? It's nuts.
Yeah.
Anyway,
wow.
but I mean, any excuse for me to talk about American football, to be fair. But I just thought I'd bring that up because at the end of the day, you know, sometimes you never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You never know what's gonna stick. You never know what people are gonna be captivated by because there's so much, just randomness, really.
Yeah, well, you know? I mean, it's so common for bands to do this. Like, I've personally recorded bands that do this and have friends who have bands where they write and record music, maybe do a couple of gigs, and then they split up. And there's like a really, really good album sitting just dormant, like no one's listening to it.
Yeah.
And it would be like maybe at some point in the future, someone will like discover it and it'll get sort of rediscovered, reboosted, and become a thing. There's so much out there that, I mean, there's bound to be some like world-class, amazing albums sitting with no listens. Because, I mean, there's so much stuff out there.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. It's really weird.
Yeah,
there's a band I know of. Let me just get them up on Spotify. It's a friend of mine I used to be in a band with. It's a band called Mason Hill. Don't know if you've heard of them.
No.
I think they're Glasgow or Scotland based. I'm not quite sure, but I know Craig, the drummer. He used to play drums for a band I used to be in. And they were like gigging and writing and recording and stuff. Let me get their thing up. And a similar kind of thing happened to them. It just kind of started taking off. And it was, I think it was back in March, maybe. They got right up the charts, like out of the blue. Like, even, I think it was Craig, he put it on Facebook, he was like, what? He just kind of woke up and it was like, we're in the charts. We're just in the charts. What's going on? It's like, obviously they've been working really hard though. Like, they've been like touring, obviously not through lockdown, but they've been writing, recording, touring, doing all their things.
Yeah.
But just a song took off. I don't actually know why, but it just shows you, like, if you write good music and there's someone there to listen to it, you'll do well. Like, and don't think like, oh, I need to write like this. I need to write like this band or that band because, oh, look, it happened to them. So maybe they're onto a winning combination with those guitar parts or that type of singing, or, you know, it's not really about that at the end of the day. Because you always ask the people who get famous, most of them are like, oh, I was just writing music that I liked. Occasionally you'll get some manufactured stuff. And I think you get enough manufactured stuff for people to go, oh, that's how it's done. Because sometimes manufactured music does well, but I don't think that's the rule. I would say that's the exception. Or you should think about it as an exception to the rule. The rule should be you write music because you like it.
Yes.
And I think that should be the rule. Not the other way around, because it's artificial that way.
Yes.
But yeah, I've heard a few stories like that where it's like, you know, nothing, and then suddenly, boom, like something happens. Where TikTok's another one, like artists that haven't been anywhere near a chart for decades, and then suddenly they're number one. They're like, what? Like Dreams by Fleetwood Mac, like a couple of months ago, was number like in the top 5.
Yeah, because it was people were using it in TikToks. Yeah,
it's like, Jesus.
Because of course,
it's weird. It's so weird.
It's bizarre, but that's kind of I guess American football is kind of the first story of a band just suddenly, I don't know, just getting big for no reason. not for no reason. Like the band's really good, but getting big without any help, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, it's bizarre.
So it's not really, well, it kind of is a rise and fall because they rose and then they just quit. So it's basically the same as Dream Theater. It's a rise and fall, then rise.
Yes.
Because that's what Dream Theater did. Like they rose and then they fell because their first hit was like a fluke, essentially. Just it was the right song at the right time, and then they were constantly chasing their tail until they eventually were allowed to do what they wanted, and then they rose even further. It's kind of similar, like writing something that's really cool. Some people listen to it and then they just split up because, well, we're busy, and then it's just like boom, just explodes.
Yeah, totally. I mean, in their case, I totally get it because you like let's put it into perspective. Imagine that Eriska, we record an album, right? We've just recorded an EP, but we record another album, and then all of a sudden we're all having kids.
Yep.
Out of nowhere, and people are going to do things, and some people are going back to university, things like that, and things just get crazy. We are just going to record that one album and go, I think we need to put a lid on it and probably not come back. That's kind of basically what happened to them. It was just no fault. Just life happens.
Aye.
But then life happened again, and their album just suddenly, got loads of attention.
I think the moral of the story is, as we always say, is just you just never know what's going to happen. So just keep working hard, keep heading towards making the right decisions. And
the moral of the story is not record an album, then break up, and then wait 14 years.
No,
and then you'll be famous. That's not the point.
No.
That's the point is make stuff. Make stuff that you like.
Yeah.
And put it out there, and people will notice it. It'll start off with like maybe a handful of people, and then that handful of people will recommend it to other people, and then like that it'll just grow
from the recording side, like, because I see it sometimes, like, see the music that does the best. It's the music that is the easiest to record.
Yes.
Now, what I mean is, like, I can have loads of different bands in, and there's occasions where they'll come in and they know the song, but they don't let the song grow like it should be a natural thing that just sort of evolves and develops on its own during the recording process. Because you don't really know what your song is going to sound like when it's done. I mean, you've heard it in rehearsal, but it never sounds the same as in rehearsal.
No,
never. Unless you're like a jazz trio. But I'm talking like rock music. It's never going to sound exactly the same because you've got so many different elements to rock. Whereas jazz is very acoustic. It's very like listener based. You can just stand in the room and listen to it. But rock's a little bit different just because it's so electric. But whenever you have a band in, and it's just so easy, like they come in and they sit down and within 5 takes the song's done, and then it's on to overdubs. And I'm thinking, like, there was this band in particular that the lead guitarist / singer, he came in and he did after we did the full band tracking, it was like, oh, it sounds so tight, like so good, and they were all like buzzing, and he comes in, he's recording some lead over the top, like an overdub, and he just did it in like 1 take, maybe 2 takes, tuning the guitar halfway through the song or something, and he's just like buzzing, like jumping up and down, like turning the volume up in the speakers, turning the subwoofer up in the control room, so it's like really pounding. They're all like dancing about and joking about and stuff. And then you can get someone the next day, and we're 25 takes in, and it's like, I think we need to change. See that note you play just before the bridge and the blah blah blah, and it's like it starts to become really draggy, and the music becomes a little soulless and boring, and we just all hate each other.
Can you slow it down by like 0.17 of a BPM, please?
It's the folk that are like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Like let's move on. They're just happy and they're confident, and they trust in the natural development of a recording process. Yes. You can plan and plan and plan and plan and plan all you like, but it'll never go to plan because it's a very free flowing thing. And it should be allowed to do that. I mean, the best example ever was when you came in with your solo project with Agustina.
Yes.
You came in with this song. You had never played it with a band ever. And we just built a song and we just went, oh, I like this sound. Oh, what about this sound? Yeah, like this sound, this sound. It was just like, yeah. And then the next minute we had this big arrangement of a song that we had no idea would sound like that at the start of the day. I love that. We just let it grow naturally as the day progressed. So good. I love doing that. That's the kind of music that you should make, not the, overly planning, like micromanaging every single thing. Oh, just no, just can't do it. Can't be doing with
it. No, totally agree. I agree. Anyway, I think it's a little bit of a shorter episode than usual.
Yeah,
but
that was good.
Yeah, just a nice wee light one for you. Think of it. It's more of like an episode 64.5. This is just reinforcing the point that we already made.
Yeah.
But if you haven't listened to American football, go listen to American football. And if you are a man, no women allowed on this podcast. I'm joking. If you are a fan of American football, get in touch if I got something completely wrong. Because you never know.
Yeah,
I'm a fan too. It's just
I'm gonna give them a listen. See if I can become a fan. I listened to definitely a little bit there, and I was like, that's pretty decent.
Yeah, the thing about American football, that album is I kind of put it in the same list as like, to me it's like it's one of those albums that you need to listen to regardless of whether you're into that kind of thing or not. Kind of in the same list of like, things like albums like I'm trying to think of other critically, like the White Album.
Yeah.
And like, these really big, hard hitting, albums that have made a cultural impact of some degree. I think they're really important to listen to and check out. Because there must be a reason.
Totally.
Why they were so big to begin with. But yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
it's American football.
That was good.
And go check out their other stuff too. I like it.
Yeah,
it's a little bit. It's a little bit. It's slightly nicer sounding. The first EP has. It's not as
polished.
It's well produced.
Okay.
But it's not as polished as the other LPs. But the other LPs sound great.
Okay,
in my opinion. But that's the only difference. The writing for me is still top notch.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that was a nice, short and sweet epised. I mean, there's not much to say there. It's a pretty quick story to tell, but. Yeah, if there are any bands you want us to cover, let us know, because we've got we've had a couple of ideas for bands, but I'm not qualified for some of these ones, like, because I'm not really, like I've said this before, I'm not really a big listener of music
listener.
It's so bizarre. You're the guy who listens to everything.
Yes.
So
yes,
Julian will probably have heard of. He's heard of every obscure band that's ever existed. So yeah, it's a fact. Anyway, as always, if you're enjoying the podcast, please leave us a review and a rating wherever you happen to listen to it. It really helps us a lot. We're still like trending in America. Most of our listener base
that's incredible.
Is American.
Yeah. It's just, it must be the accents. That's what it is.
Must be the accent.
The good Scottish accents,
Oh, aye, the new.
Aye.
Yeah.
Haggis and whiskey.
That's the one.
There you go.
Yep.
That's all of Scottish culture right there.
Yeah, that's everything you need to know right there.
Yeah, we're all drunk and angry.
It's not wrong. So yeah, I did say that I was going to get an interview this week, but schedules were all messed up. So it's probably going to be another week or two. We'll see what happens. It's going to be another podcast. Incidentally, it's another another podcast host. So we're going to have merging podcasts. That's the plan.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, it's going to be Podcast City. Anyway, check us out on YouTube. The YouTube's pretty dead. I think that, well, it's a podcast after all. It's not a YouTube channel, but go and watch if you've like watching podcasts. You can actually go and watch on YouTube because we put the Zoom video up, so you can go and give that a wee watch and a like and a subscribe. And yeah, if you've got any comments, you can put it in the YouTube comment box or even Facebook. We put it on Facebook as well, which is also dead. Instagram, I was tempted to put videos on Instagram, but they're just too long because there's this time limit thing with Insta, so I don't bother.
Yes.
Anyway,
yes.
If you don't like all of that stuff, we always have the website. All the stuff's up on the website, so that's levelupyourband.com. Cool. So, yeah, American football. I'm definitely going to listen to their album.
Listen to the first one, definitely. It's really good.
Yeah.
The other two are also good, in my opinion, but definitely the first one, that's the one that you need to listen to. The one with the house.
The one with the house. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So, hope you all enjoyed the episode and hope you have a fantastic week as well. And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.